Throughout our many years of working, most of us are contributing to the Social Security system. We do this through FICA taxes or self-employment taxes. We do this in hopes of one day benefiting from that system. And so for years we pay in, we give, and we're hoping for years we'll be on the receiving of that. Now, the big question with Social Security is always, how can I maximize my Social Security benefits? So in this video, I'm going to share with you 5 Social Security filing strategies that can actually increase your Social Security benefit anywhere from 24% to 54%. Let me show you. Now, before we get into those 5 strategies, I just need to cover one area that's very important, and that's this, your different Social Security options. All right, so number one, we can take Social Security just through our own work record, which we would call this retirement benefits. In fact, this is the great majority of people that are receiving Social Security. This is exactly what they're doing. Okay. Number 2, what we can do, we can actually take spousal benefits. And so this is taking benefits off of someone else's work record. This is someone that is still alive and either you're married to them or were married to them in the past. So that's spousal benefit. The third one would be survivor benefits. Now this is typically going to be widow or widower type benefits, but here clearly someone has passed away and you're getting benefits because of their work record, and again, they're deceased. And then the last one would be disability. All right, disability, so this is someone that's been diagnosed with some type of an emotional or physical disability, and they're getting, therefore, Social Security disability. Now, by the way, this is very important. I think this is about 10 to 15% of the Social Security population. But again, I'm not going to talk much about this other than to tell you when someone does qualify, they normally get a benefit that's equivalent to their full retirement age benefit. So our focus during this video is going to be these 3 items here. All right, now, I want to clarify something as we get into this, because this will be critical as we look at these strategies. The first thing that we have to understand is that our full retirement age matters. Full retirement age. And what I mean by that, I mean the exact month and year that you're going to hit what the government refers to as your full retirement age or normal retirement age. So real quickly, here's the schedule. Anyone born between 1943 and 1954 has a full retirement age of 66 even, no months added to it. But then in 1955 on, they started adding. So in 1955, someone's born then, they added 2 months. 1956, it was 66 plus 4 months. 1957, 66 plus 6 months. 1958, 66 plus 8 months. 1959, 66 plus 10 months. And then 1960 thereafter, for now, we have a full retirement age of 67. All right? And so let me just teach you just real quickly. Let's say somebody turned 65 today. I'm shooting this video. It is 8/12 of 2024. That's the video shoot today. So let's say someone turned 65 today. What does that mean? They were born 8/12/1959. So what would their full retirement age be? Again, they're born in 1959. It'd be 66 and 10 months. And so we know that 8/12 of 2025, they're 66, but they're not full retirement age yet because we have to add 10 months to it. So the way we count that is this. They turned 66 in August, so we would go September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May, June. So 6 of 2026 would be their full retirement age month and year. So that's the first thing we got to do is know exactly what that is, because that's going to be applicable for these different strategies that we're going to talk about. Okay, this is strategy number 1. And that would be this. Before filing, you haven't taken your Social Security yet, be sure that you get to 35 years of employment. And this is why. When the Social Security Department agency actually determines your benefit amount, what they're going to do is they're going to take your top 35 years of working, top 35 years. And they take all those top 35 years and they apply that to an index. This is a wage index. Why is that? Well, because money that you made 25, 30 years ago, they want to, because of inflation, they want to bring that up to a proper dollar amount. And then once we reach age 60, they no longer do that. They just take our income at face value, but they'll inflate it up until age 60. And so once they've applied the index, what they're trying to get to is what they call lifetime earnings. Lifetime earnings. Now I'm going to keep this real simple, okay? But let's say we have top 35 years plus the index that gives us our lifetime earnings. And let's say this is $2,100,000, which, by the way, it looks like a lot, but really is not over a 35-year period of time. So whatever your lifetime earnings is, and they take that number and they divide that by 420 months, right? That is the 35 years. So when they take lifetime earnings divided by 420, what they're coming up with is a number that's called your average indexed monthly earnings. And so if I were to take $2,100,000 by 420, that's going to give us an amount of $5,000. Now, by the way, that's not what your check is going to be, because then they take this average index monthly earnings and they apply this to what are called bend points. Bend points. They call them this because when you look on a graph, these points are bending. And so what that means is this. What we get is this year, someone would get 90% of the first $1,174. That's the first bend point. And then the next bend point is $7,078. Okay, and we actually get 32% of that, and anything above that amount there, we would get actually 15%. So if there's anything above that, higher income earners, they'll get 15%. And this particular equation is what they use to determine what they call our primary insurance amount, which is what we get at our full retirement age with no reduction. Okay, and so let's just do some quick math on these numbers. So someone with an AIM of $5,000, they're going to get 90% of the first $1,174. That would be a part of their Social Security check. So $1,174, we get 90% of that. And that number is, I'm going to erase this here, that number is $1,056.60. Okay, so then we get 32% of the difference. So 1174, we get 90%. So I'm going to take the difference between 1174 and 5,000, and that number is 3,826, and we get 32% of that number. So we got 32%. So that gives us $1,224.32. Now this person was not above 7078, so over here then would have been 0. Okay, so when we add this together, this is going to let us know what their total check is going to be. 105,660 plus the 1224 gives us a check amount of, and I'll write it over here, $2,280.92. All right, so we'll just call it 2281 for our example. So this is what their check is going to be, their Social Security benefit, if they get to their full retirement age. Now we know if they take early, they take less. We'll look at some examples of that. If they take later, they'll get more of that. But I want to use this 2280.92 as our example as we talk about. So here's my point in sharing this with you. You want to get to 35 years. Why is that? Because let's say if someone only has 31 years of working, but they have the ability to continue to work, what you probably want to do is try to get up to 35 years, because if you only have 31, as they do this calculation, they're not going to change that. So that means in this whole equation, you're going to have some years of zero. So if you can continue to work, it can help you immensely by building up those top 35 years, so that when they divide that out, this lifetime earnings and this AIM is going to be at a higher amount. So again, we want to get to 35, so if you can work and continue to do that, it will be in your best interest. Now let's then talk about the second strategy, and that's this. Before filing, replace some of your 35 years. Some of you may already have 35 years, but maybe some of those earlier years were lower. And so if you continue to work, your income may be higher now. So what they'll do is your higher income will knock off some of those lower earning years. And again, what are we trying to do? We're trying to build up that lifetime earnings so that when they divide it by 420, this AIM amount is going to be a higher amount. So try to get to 35 if you're already there. If you keep working, we can increase that benefit that way as well. Hey, if you found this video helpful and you want to see more Medicare information just like it, then go below, right below the video, and you can give us a thumbs up as well as subscribe to our channel. And every time I put a new video, which is about 2 every week, you'll be notified of that video, and others just like you who need this vital information will get it as well. All right, that brings us into strategy number 3, and that would be, notice what I'm saying, delay filing for retirement benefits beyond your full retirement age. So let's talk about this. Now remember earlier I said if someone had a birthday today, 8/12/1959, they have a full retirement age month and year of June of 2026. So in June of 2026, they're going to get their full benefit amount, their primary insurance amount. So let's go back to my example, and we said we had someone that was eligible for $2,200, and let's just call it $80. And let's say that's their full retirement age benefit. Now what happens if I take early, for every year that I take early, I lose 6% a year for every year. So if someone's full retirement age is 67 and they take at 62, that's 5 full years earlier that they took their benefit, and that means they would have lost 30% of their primary insurance amount. That would be a substantial decrease. But what I am proposing, if someone doesn't have the money, what happens? They actually can go beyond full retirement age and they can grow this account. All right? And so what happens, I lose if I take early 6% a year, but if I wait and I go down here to age 70, what happens? I can grow it a full 24%. So each year I'm going to get a credit 8%, 16%, 24%. So if my benefit was the 2280 at my full retirement age, 2280, and I add 24% to that, I just grew that account by $547.20. All right, so my benefit then would be $2,827.20. So again, I got that increase. So again, if someone doesn't have to have the money, or maybe they can draw from other assets that may have a lower return than the 8%, it may be wise and in your best interest to do that. Now I realize we're going to have to live a little bit longer to be able to see the benefit of that, but normally it does pay off if someone lives into their mid-80s and above, all right, because that's going to be a permanent increase. So we grew that account by 24%. Now I do want to clarify something. As we talk about taking our benefits at full retirement age or beyond, well, what happens is this. Number one, we don't lose any, but also we no longer have to worry about if I continue to work, then my wages are not going to be subject to what's called an earnings test. And so I'm going to take the time right now to explain earnings test. And please understand this. The earnings test only applies to people that decide to take their Social Security benefits before they have reached their full retirement age. If they keep working, they can only make so much money. So let me say it again. So earnings test applies to those people that decide to work and also take Social Security at the same time, and they have not yet reached their full retirement age, because once we reach full retirement age, we have no earnings test whatsoever. So let me give you the 2024 numbers. So here's the way it looks. 22,320. We always call this the low number. And this year, the high number is $59,520. This is the high number. So let me explain. Let's go back to our example where we said that someone had a full retirement age of June 2026. So this person here that had a date of birth of the 8/12/1959, sorry about that, 8/12/1959, they could have started taking Social Security at the age of 62, which meant they could have started as early as 8/21. But they would be subject to a very limited amount of income if they took at 62 all the way up until December before they hit the year that they turned full retirement age. So in this example, 8/21 all the way to 12/25, they are subject to that low number. $22,320 is all they can make in wages. Keep in mind, they're not going to test your rental income, investment income, pension income, any kind of distributions from IRAs, 401ks. None of that is tested, only working wages. So I'm limited, very low, $22,320. For every $2 I make above that, they withhold $1 out of my Social Security benefit. Okay, and all that money is actually front loaded. So if I'm over $10,000, they're going to withhold $5,000 of Social Security checks before they turn on my Social Security benefit. So there's a penalty, we'll say. So we have this low number. So it goes all the way from when I'm first eligible at age 62 until December before I hit the year I am turning full retirement age. So then the year I turn full retirement age, again in my example, this is going to be 1/26, all the way up until the month prior to my full retirement age. In this example, that would be May of 26. During these months, now I can make much more. $59,520 for every $3 above, they take $1 out of my check. And so I can make almost 3 times the amount of money, and the penalty is less as well. All right, and so that's the high amount for a limited amount of months, however many are left there in that year. But once I've hit my full retirement age, what happens? My earnings test goes away. And so that's another reason why I want you to know your full retirement age. But what I'm proposing in this example here is you delay filing. In other words, don't take it full retirement age. Go ahead and let that account grow that 24% and get your money that you may need from other sources. Could be work, could be other, again, low yielding investments. But it's wise if you can, if you believe you have some longevity in your life, you're going to live 85 or beyond, to go ahead and grow that account by 24%. All right, that brings us now to strategy number 4, and this has to do with filing for your spousal benefits. Let me explain, first of all, the eligibility of spousal benefits. And so for someone to take spouse, and I'm going to talk about, first of all, just for someone that's going to take benefits from a married spouse. Number one, the marriage has to last for at least a year, so 1 year or more, and you have to prove that with a marriage license. In addition to that, if you're going to take from a married spouse, that married spouse must be taking Social Security, okay? So if they're not taking, you're not going to be eligible for spousal benefits whatsoever. So those are the 2 rules. So they got to be taking, and of course the marriage has to last for 1 year. And then this spousal benefit is you're eligible for 50% of whatever that spouse was eligible for at their full retirement age. Okay, so the amount you get is going to be based upon their full retirement age. So let's just keep it simple. Let's say at their full retirement age, they were eligible for $2,500. The maximum spousal benefit for you would be $1,250. Now keep this in mind. This is their full retirement age amount. Now let's say they took early. They took it at 62. So they would have lost possibly 25 to 30%, but that has no impact upon you when it comes to this number here. Now, if you take before your full retirement age, that number is going to be reduced, and I'll show you that here in just a second. But my point is, it's tied to your spouse's full retirement age, whether they took or not, then or even later, doesn't matter. That would be the amount, and that's the maximum benefit that you would get. Okay, so I want to clarify something. So let's suppose that someone is no longer married, and so they're divorced. They're still possibly eligible for spousal benefits, but the rules are different. Number one, you had to be married to that ex-spouse for 10 years or longer. You could not have remarried prior to the age of 60, because if you remarried prior to the age of 60 and you're still married to that person, you cannot come back to your ex-spouse. Now, if you remarried after age 60, you can go back to the ex-spouse, or if that second marriage ended in death or divorce, then you have the right to go back. All right? Okay, so we got to make sure you understand. 10 years married, can't remarry prior to the age of 60. Now, in this scenario, here's a couple more rules. If you were divorced, but your divorce is less than 2 years, 24 months, or you got divorced less than 2 years, your spouse that you're going to draw from must be taking. Okay, they have to be. But if you've been divorced more than 2 years, Medicare says your spouse doesn't have to be taken. You've been independent long enough where now you can draw that spousal benefit. Again, it's still going to be limited to 50% of what that spouse was eligible for at full retirement age. But this is the rules for that. Now let's explain why I'm saying you wait to take those spousal benefits until your own full retirement age. Let me explain. Hey, if you come to a place where you know you're going to have to make some Medicare decisions pretty soon, the best way to do that is to click up here in this right-hand corner, and you'll have an opportunity to be able to book a call with one of our Medicare guides. All the guides around here I have personally trained, and they truly are professional. They'll answer your questions, and they'll show you different Medicare options to make sure that you're confident in the decision that you make. Okay, so let's look at the numbers. So we know that my spouse or ex-spouse, full retirement age $2,500. We know the most I can get is $1,250. But for me to get that full amount, I have to get to my own full retirement age. So whatever that is, let's just call it 67. All right? And so what happens if someone actually takes this benefit earlier, remember, we can take it at 66, 65, 64, 63, 62, right? But what happens by taking early, I'm going to take less. And the penalty is stiffer than what it is on our normal reduction. Remember, we take our own retirement benefits, we lose 6% a year. But not so when it comes to spousal. What happens if I take 1 year earlier, you're going to lose a full 9.375%. and then another 9.375%. And if you take 3 years earlier, another 9.375%, and then years 4 and 5, you only lose 5%, okay? So they minimize that, but you can see how substantial that is. So let's do the numbers on that. We got 9.375%, 3 years, and then we got our 10%. So we lost, if we took at age 62, we lost a full 38.125% in benefit. So if we're eligible at 1250 and I took early, I lost, let's see what I lost here, 38.125%. So I lost $476.56. Okay? And so instead of getting $1250, I'm going to get $476.56. And my benefit over here would only be $773.44. Okay? Yeah, and so that's quite a reduction, and that's going to be a lifetime. Now, I want to make sure everyone is clear on this. If you do decide to file for spousal benefits today, we have this rule that is called the deeming provision. Deeming provision, and what this means is when we file for Social Security today, because it used to be different, but if you're born after January 1st, 1954, what you do when you file, you're deeming to file for whatever benefits you're eligible for, and you have to take the highest amount. And so if we're going to take spousal, which means if your own account at 100% of your own benefit is greater than 50% of your spousal benefit, then you're going to take your own. You have to. But if 50% of spousal is greater than 100%, then of course you'll take that spousal benefit. Okay? And so that's called the deeming provision. So that's what I'm saying. If you can, because this penalty is so stiff, wait until you hit your own full retirement age so you get that full benefit and you can increase the check that way as well. And then just one more thing about this that's important to note. If you do take spousal benefits before your full retirement age, what happens? Not only did I take less, but if you keep working, remember that, you are subject to the earnings test. So you can only make so much money. If you make above that, you're going to be penalized. Remember the low number, the high number that I just taught you. So again, you're subject to the earnings test if you keep working. But if we hit my full retirement age, again, no earnings test whatsoever. So I get the full amount that I'm entitled to here, and I can keep on working if I'd like to after that and make as much money, no impact at all upon your Social Security check. All right, so that brings us then to the fifth and final strategy, and again, this has to do with survivor benefits. So that means that you're drawing your benefits off somebody that you were married to, and now they're deceased. Now, it's very similar to what we talked about earlier when it came to a divorce situation, because in order to get survivor benefits, if you are married to someone and they pass away while married, then your marriage only had to be 9 months or more. But it just means you're married 9 months plus, they died after that, but you were still married to them. All right? Now, when it comes to drawing survivor benefits off of someone that were divorced, what happens? You had to be married to them 10 years or more, and again, you could not have remarried prior to the age of 60 unless that marriage ends in death or divorce. You cannot draw from that deceased ex-spouse. But again, if you married after age 60 or you're single at this particular point in time, you can go back to that spouse. So in other words, you were divorced and they passed away after the divorce. All right, so that's survivor benefits. Now, what we need to note about survivor benefits is this. You are eligible, if indeed you can draw from them, you're eligible to take 100% of whatever their benefit was, all right? And so for you men, that may be considering waiting to age 70. If your spouse does not have a lot of their own Social Security income, that's another reason why you could delay waiting to 70, because then they're going to be eligible for that 100%. You may not live long enough to benefit from that, but your spouse could, especially if they're younger. Most ladies outlive men. In fact, an interesting stat about survivor benefits, they say that 95% of all survivor benefits are paid out to ladies, paid out to women. All right? And so all I'm trying to teach you is that, remember, spousal was 50% of full retirement age, but the survivor benefit is going to be 100% of the benefit, so whatever they were eligible for at that time. Now, you got to keep this in mind. If your full retirement age yourself was 67, and you take your survivor benefits, and by the way, they can be taken as early as 60. Actually, earlier that if you're taking care of children that are still in the home, but usually 60 is about the earliest that we can start. And so what happens is this: anywhere between the ages of 60 and 62, if we're going to take our benefit, we're going to lose that 30% we talked about earlier. Remember, because for every year, so I take it 66, I lost 6%. I take it 65, I lose 12%. 64, I lose 18%. And at 63, I lost 24%, all right? Remember, it's 6% a year. So I'm eligible for whatever my spouse was receiving. Let's keep it simple. Let's say the spouse was getting $2,000 when they passed away. So if I take spousal at my full retirement age, I would have gotten $2,000, okay? But if I take early, I'm going to take less. So 30% of that would be, what, $600. So I'm only going to get a benefit of $1,400. But what I am saying to you, what I would do, I would take as soon as you possibly can. Why? Even though you're going to lose that benefit, I am saying you file for a survivor benefit as soon as possible. And this is why. Now, again, this scenario, everyone's going to be a little bit different, but I would encourage you to go ahead and take as soon as possible. Now, keep in mind, if you do take early, what do we still have the subject to? We've got that earnings test. They're still going to apply that even for survivor benefits, widow or widower. But if I'm below those numbers on the earnings test, then I would go ahead and take, and this is why, because I can take my survivor benefit at 100%, and then my own account is going to continue to grow, okay? There's no impact for me personally on my own account. I took less because I took early, but again, that penalty does not carry over. So let me explain what I'm saying. Let's say that your own benefit was $2,000 at your own full retirement age. What's happening now is while you're getting your survivor benefit all these years, this account just keeps growing, and then we're over here, and now it's 24%, so we grew that to $2,480. So what happens? I get $1,400 for lots and lots of years, and then once I hit my my maximum age at 70 over here, I now have $2,480 versus $1,400. And so this is the one Social Security benefit that will continue to grow. If we're going to take survivor, our own retirement benefit will grow. So again, if your account eventually reaches or exceeds it, then that's when you would stop your survivor benefit and actually turn on your own retirement benefit. And there's lots of people who do that, all right? So we've got money in the bank, we're getting this benefit here, and there's no impact whatsoever. Our account keeps growing. So that's why I'm saying a great strategy, if you have a spouse or ex-spouse that's passed away, take survivor, and then if your account then grows beyond theirs, you can take that at age 70 and you maximized your benefit.